Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a couple of cards using a combination of a newer embossing folder and an oldie but goodie sentiment set that I've used in previous videos. And I did a little technique that I've done with embossing folders in a couple of previous videos, which I will link to in the end screen at the end of the video. I'll also link to my Halloween. Why do I have Halloween on my brain? Valentine's 2025 playlist. Halloween's coming, but not for a few more months. Definitely not in the mood for that right now. Valentine's playlist, because these definitely fit in the Valentine category, but yet again, are not specifically Valentine, and they're definitely a card I would send to just about anyone. And you could skip the one. Actually, no, because it doesn't really say friend. It just says you're my person. So really, I would send this to anyone. So, as always, I will have links to everything I use. They'll be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills, keeps my heaters running, enables me to continue to bring out content. And that's it for the housekeeping. Let's get into making the cards. So for these cards, I pulled several sheets of Simon Says Stamps color cardstock in what I call their OG colors, because they've released a few more colors more recently, which I honestly haven't even used yet. I need to get them organized, but these are some of the OGs, and I'll have them all listed and linked. There's AUDREY Blue and Lilac and Dull Pink and Cotton Candy and Lemon Chiffon, I think. And then I pull in sea glass as well. And all I do is I just trim off strips in various widths, just eyeballing it. I'm not measuring anything. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And once I've got my strips of cardstock, I cut 2 of everything because I was like, this, especially with these cards, they're going to be a little more simpler, but I still managed to add 2 types of splatter and all the things. But I cut 2 of everything so I can make 2 cards. And then copy paper. This is important because I want to emboss this, and I do it in this way versus just adhering the strips to the cardstock that I'm also going to emboss. Is I just don't want to risk layering up these weights of cardstock and risking wrecking the embossing folder, because these cardstocks, the color ones, are roughly 100-pound weight. They're a good weight. I use these ones for card bases, etc. These are not flimsy cardstock. And then the white cardstock I'm going to use is also very heavyweight. It's 120-pound weight. And I'm not willing to test it. One of these days I might, because I think I might have an embossing folder that I have more than one of, and just to see, but I do have a feeling that it would just pop the embossing folder open. So anyway, copy paper, super, super thin, so it keeps everything in place. And then I just use a tape runner, and then I just adhere the strips of cardstock to that copy paper with the tape runner. I like putting it on an angle because it just looks nice. And then and the copy paper is A2 sized, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, because that gives me a nice visual with everything too of, how wide I want the strips of cardstock to be, etc. And then I trim off all the excess with my scissors along the top and the bottom, because this also helps prevent getting any of that adhesive pressed into the embossing folder, because that's annoying. So I trim off all that excess copy paper. And then the longer strips of cardstock, those I'll save because I can use those for little sentiment strips, things like that. And I repeat the process, just sped up in editing. So I've talked about this, I think the last time I did this, which was just in a more recent video as well. I don't really use tape runners much at all anymore, but for something like this, it just works. It's way more convenient. I don't have glue oozing anywhere. If I'm using liquid glue, I don't have to wait for glue to dry. And also running this through the embossing folder, it fuses the cardstock to the copy paper anyway, so we're good to go. So rinse and repeat. Trim off all the excess, and then I'm going to put these into the embossing folder, which this time I'm using the Pinnacle Hearts embossing folder, one of Simon's 3D ones, and this is one of the newer ones. And for my Anna Griffin Empress machine and Simon's 3D embossing folders, all I need is one cutting plate in the folder, and then I run it through, and then it embosses. And it's just a neat look having the strips of pattern paper, or, well, you could use pattern paper for this too. That could be a fun look. Saving that one in the vault, if I remember, for a future project. That could be fun. But cardstock, pattern paper, whatever. The strips of it, and then, running them through with the embossing folder, it just creates a neat look. And then for my background, I'm using just white cardstock, the 120 pound heavyweight white cardstock that I always use. Run that through. And there I've got the nice embossed impression. And once I've got my card fronts embossed, this is my favorite part of this, is how the strips of cardstock just like click into place. It is just stupidly satisfying, and I don't know why, but I like it a lot. So this is where I put the glue on the back, click those into place, and there I've got my backgrounds. It's just simple. And I've mentioned this before, you could just mask off. It would be a little more difficult. And it would look slightly different. You could mask off and just ink blend. If you don't have color cardstock, it'll be similar, just not quite the same. And yeah, it's satisfying. It's satisfying. That's all there is to it. So I was going to keep these A2 size, but then changed my mind and I trimmed these down to 3 3/4 by 5 because I'm going to use a color cardstock base, which I'll get to later. And then splatter, because of course. So I'm going to do 2 types of splatter. So this first bit is Picket Fence Studios liquid gold paper splatter watercolor. So I put that on my palette, used my fan brush, did a fairly heavy amount of splatter with this, just popping it on there. And then I'm going to add black splatter, but a lighter hand, not totally crazy. So this is just my Altenew black gouache, very little. It's hard to show on camera because I don't put very much of this on, and when I add water to it, it looks like there's a ton because this stuff is black. You can see where it's the stuff stains. Just heads up on that. It stained my little palette. I don't care, but just treat it with, a smidge of caution. But it is gouache, so it does come off, but it will stain. So just, beware. So I splattered those backgrounds just lightly and then set them aside to dry. And then for my sentiments, I'm using this oldie but goodie favorite. This is the Clean Line XL stamp set from CZ Design. And I loves it. This one came out a few years ago. And these sentiments it's got big, big, I was about to say beefy, but they're not. The font is, very light. But they've got big sentiments and then a whole bunch of little companion sentiments and sub-sentiments. So I took the big Love You So sentiment. And then the little one that I'm stamping on the pink cardstock is the little XOXO. And I used anti-static powder on these pieces of cardstock and just did everything at once. I like when that works sometimes. It doesn't always work out that way, but it's like, ooh, I'm like more than multitasking at this point. So I'd use my anti-static powder tool to prevent the embossing powder from clinging to where it doesn't belong. Stamp the sentiments with clear embossing ink. Coated them with Simon's gold embossing powder, tapped off the excess, melted with heat tool on both pieces of cardstock. So I did black cardstock for the main sentiment, and then this is the dull pink cardstock for the little XOXO. Then I used my microfiber cloth to buff away that excess anti-static powder. And then for the little XOXO sentiment, I'm die cutting that with one of Simon's Nested Heart wafer dies. And then the big sentiment, I'm using the coordinating wafer dies because there is a coordinating die set for the large sentiments in this set. So I'm going to die cut those. And then off camera, I also used this Nested Heart as well as the smallest one from the set and die cut some more pieces of cardstock and some gold glitter cardstock, which I'm going to use as little embellishments. And then I took more panels of just white cardstock and I'm stamping more of the sentiments from that set onto these. So I'm stamping the You Are My Person with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. And then I'm going to stamp the Sending You a Hug sentiment right below it with Simon's Lilac Positively Saturated ink. So get that stamped into place. and then do that on the second panel. And these panels are also 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Yes, they are, because my card base is dull pink cardstock that is A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So everything else is trimmed down slightly smaller so that the card base will kind of frame it up nicely. So once I got those panels stamped, I'm going to adhere those to the insides of my cards with craft tacky glue. And then I've got my little die cut hearts that I die cut with the 2 smallest nested heart dies. So I die cut some of Simon's gold cardstock or gold glitter cardstock, and then more little scraps of the dull pink cardstock. And then figured out where I wanted to put these ones on the inside of my card. So I adhered my little gold glitter die cuts, and then the little dull pink one, and then just added that last little one right below. These are fun. Heart wafer dies, so handy. I've had these for, gosh, years. I can't even remember when I bought these, like a decade ago. It's been a long time. Anyway, I'll let those dry. On the backs of my card fronts, I am putting Simon's Big Mama foam tape. So this will pop it up a little bit, give it a little bit of dimension. But if you're not familiar, this foam tape is extremely thin. So why I love it. I don't even know how many rolls of this stuff I've gone through over the years. And not that many rolls though, honestly. Even for as many cards as I make and as much as I use this stuff, like one roll is, 72 yards or something like that. They last me a long time. Anywho, adhered the card fronts with the Big Mama foam tape. The sentiments I adhered with some thin black foam squares. Pop those up so they also have just a bit of dimension. And then I'm doing the same thing with the little heart that says XOXO. And then I've got more of those little glitter hearts that I had die cut to just add that to both of these. And then as my final little bit of embellishment, I have the Surf Pawsitively Dazzling gems. So I'd figured out on the first card my placement, so I'm just copying that on the second card. So getting those into place, and then I'll just pick these up with my little embellishment wand and then adhere them down with little dabs of craft tacky glue. And then you just gotta let the glue dry, and these cards are complete. These are fun to make. And I don't know what it is about the cardstock strips and embossing and them clicking into place. It's satisfying. I recommend you try it because it's easy. Anyone, I'm like losing my voice saying that. I'm so excited. Anyone can do this, so fun. So like I mentioned in the intro, I will link to the videos I've done doing this, and then to my Valentine playlist. That'll also be linked, and all the supplies will be linked below. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping, commenting. I appreciate it a ton. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!